Hey everybody, all right, so we're back for our third video in the top 100 items that I prep up on. And today we're going to be talking food, okay? Because I know a lot of people, you may rush out and you may buy those buckets of, pre-made survival rations. And I do have a couple of those. But you can do it without breaking the bank, and you can do it where you're going to get the same, if not better, items than what you're going to get in those buckets. And I guess that a lot of this series, the top 100, they're kind of like grouped together. You could say that the last week's was the top 100 medical items that I'm stocking up on. So this week it's the top 10 food items that I like to stock up on. And a lot of this is nutrition, calorie count, because if you are in a survival situation, you're going to need your calories, as well as flavor, versatility, because if you don't want to eat the same thing every single time. So, and this is actually going to be kind of like a two-part one. The other one is going to be a month down the line. But this one is just mainly dealing with the food items, not so much with like the seasonings and stuff. I'm going to have a different one for that, because the seasonings that I stock up on is important for what I think. And there's some in there that you might not have thought about that I think is important for you to stock up on when you have the chance. But anyway, so we're going to go into this. And again, these foods are not in any particular order. Some of these might not, some of these are definitely not going to suit all of you. Because there are people out there with certain allergies, celiac disease, stuff like that. They may have gluten intolerance. And you're going to have to work around that in your preps. But for me, this is a good list that I use. So when I'm out in this market and I'm like, okay, what do I need to get? Okay, I'm going to buy a couple of this, a couple of that, right? So that I'm not buying it all at once, but I slowly stock up. Because, you don't want to panic shop either and go out and buy all of it. But if you like slowly buy it up, and again, you also want to use stuff that you're actually going to eat, because you want to rotate it as well. Although a lot of these, I put them in Mylar seal, I vacuum seal them, and so they have like a much longer term storage factor. And I don't have any necessarily examples to show you like I did last week. Next week I have examples, but this week is merely just, explaining why. Alright, so the first thing I have on my list, and I'm sure you've all heard, the first two are going to be ones that you all have heard, but it's what we stock up on, right? And the first one is beans. Of course, and the reason for beans is because they're very calorie dense. They expand, right? And so the fact that they expand, so you get, it fills that void. So it actually fills you up so you're not hungry. So you're getting the calories, you're not hungry, they're high in protein. So the nutrients is there as well. I mean, it is a good alternate for protein. But another thing is you add the beans to other foods, and you can use the flavor of the other foods, so you're actually getting the flavor from something else. Like, let's say that you manage to bag a rabbit, right? So, but let's say that you only have one rabbit and you have a lot of mouths to feed. So, you can boil that rabbit off. So, you get it off the bones, you boil it down, you make a stew or a soup out of it. Well, you put those beans in there to actually improve the nutrition, but it'll actually hit, the beans will almost like take on that flavor, much almost like textured vegetable protein. It almost kind of like TVP, but it almost takes on that flavor. So it actually, but so it bulks it out. So you might only get a few pieces of meat each, but you're actually getting that flavor and that nutrition because it bulks it up. You only need a small amount to get the calories. So they're very calorie dense, which is an important thing. And another thing is there's a lot of different beans out there. You don't have to just get pinto beans or kidney beans. You can get you can get split peas, you can get lentils. I highly recommend lentils. They're very, very, very good. You can get navy beans, you can get white beans, lima beans, black beans, small red kidney beans. There's black-eyed peas. One of my favorites is black-eyed peas. You can get a lot of different dried beans out there. Now, of course, when you get them, I freeze them for 72 hours, just to make sure there's nothing in there that's going to, cause any issues. I put them in a sealer and I vacuum seal them up so that way Occasionally, I may put an O2 absorber in there if I have them. But if you vacuum seal it and you just check your stock, if there's no air in there, you're good to go. If you get air, eat it. Because again, if you don't like beans or you don't eat beans, then this might not be the food for you to stock up on. A lot of, but I would still recommend things like lentils or like split peas, because you can put those in other stuff. They break down, so it's not like you're really eating beans, but you can get the nutrition from it. Okay, number 2, white rice. Again, I said numbers 1 and 2, everybody stocks up on. That's the way it is, right? White rice, and again, it's a complex carbohydrate, so it's not just like eating sugar. So you're gonna get that energy. You mix it with the beans and the rabbit, and you can actually make a full meal. But the fact that you're getting those additional calories, you get a lot of calories in a small amount. Like a half cup serving is going to get you a lot of calories. You add that with a half a cup of beans, in your meat, and you're gonna fill up that void. So you're not going to be hungry, and you'll be able to continue to work and continue to not just survive, but to begin to thrive. And that ultimately, that's what you have to do. And again, this is something that you can use it to take on the flavor of something else. So if you do have that, let's say that you have a chicken, right? Well, if you have chicken and rice, it takes on that flavor, and it's just because rice itself doesn't have much of a flavor, but it has the nutrition that you need as far as like the carbohydrates as well as the calories. So, and carbohydrates, of course, those are the basic building blocks of energy, which is what you need in a survival situation. You need the energy. So very important to have plenty of rice. And the nice thing about both beans and rice is you can still get them relatively cheap. Sometimes you can get them for, if you buy, and another good way to buy them, if you have a store that has the bulk bins where you scoop it out, you can get a bulk pound for a few cents cheaper than buying a bagged pound. So just something to think about. If you are pinching pennies, that's a place where you can pinch pennies, and so if you buy like 20 pounds, you're going to save a couple bucks. So just something to think about, especially in today's economy that's just draining us all. That's a good way to save that little bit of money and still get what you need to get your stocks up. And again, just like the beans, I freeze it for 72 hours to make sure that there's no eggs in there, like anything, and then I put them in a vacuum seal them up. Possibly put an O2 absorber. If not, just check them. If they get loose, then just eat it and replace it with another one. All right, so number 3 on the list, non-fat dry milk. Now, non-fat dried milk, if stored properly, will last indefinitely. And the importance for this is that's going to get you your calcium that you need. And not only that, if you have stuff like berries, or if you can find strawberries, blueberries, raspberry, boysenberries, well, you know what? It's like you can put those. Maybe you find some nuts, right? You find some walnuts or some pecans or almonds or something in the wild while you're foraging, and you put those in a bowl. You add a little bit of milk, and then you can make almost like a cereal out of it, And calcium is very important for strong bones, right? And so by getting that non-fat dry milk, you add water and you have milk. But the nice thing is, if properly stored, right? If properly stored, that's the key thing here, because it's humidity will kill it if it's not properly stored because it takes on the water. But if properly stored, non-fat dry milk, it's not going to go bad. So that's a good thing to stock up on, is non-fat dry milk. So that's number 3. Number 4, and this kind of goes with the non-fat dry milk, but it's oats. You want to get some rolled oats. Nothing like you want to get. Nothing like necessarily like flavor or anything, but if you buy like the big bucket of like Quaker oats or the off-brand, I buy the off-brand oats because again, it's going to save you a buck or two. And I buy the big bucket, and what do? I freeze them, I put them in a bag, and I tie them, zip them up. In fact, I think I have one of those. I think I do have one of those floating around here somewhere. No, I put them in the bucket. But anyway, yeah. So rolled oats, and again, that's something else. It's loaded with nutrition. You get your fiber. You're gonna get your calories, and it's a good breakfast item. And rice is also a good breakfast item as well. You put a little like sugar or honey in it and milk, and you make a cereal of it with your non-fat dry milk. So as you can see, all of these are starting to work together. right? The nice thing about oats though is that you can do it. You can make cookies. You can make oatmeal pancakes. You can just just cook it and eat the oatmeal. I mean, you put it in the milk and just let it soak up the milk, and you can make almost like a gruel type. I know that sounds horrible, but you can just eat it like that, and so you're gonna get the nutrition you need. And if you properly store it, they're not gonna go bad. I mean, I'm not gonna say indefinitely like the non-fat dry milk, but they're gonna last you. They're gonna last you several years. 5, 10, 15 years, if stored properly. And that's something else. You put an O2 absorber in there because the biggest threat to any of these is going to be water and then pests, right? That's why you want to use the thicker bags. Take them out of those thin plastic bags that they come in, or the cardboard container that the oats come in. Put them in a good high quality vacuum seal bag. Seal them up. Or what I'll do sometimes is, and this is another place where I try to save money, I'll buy like the jarred spaghetti sauce to make my spaghetti. And then I'll clean the jar out, or like pickles or something. I'll clean the jar out. Well, then it's like I can put the oats in there, put the sugar in there, the salt, whatever, and then close it up. And if it's an item that you put a vacuum seal, put an oxygen absorber in there, I've actually had some things where that pop-up top has actually depressed because once all that oxygen leaves, it has resealed it. And you can touch that tab, and if it's not moving, then there's no air in there. I'm not going to say it's as good as the original seal. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying, if it's something dry like rice or beans or something, if there's no oxygen in there and you got an O2 absorber, you're going to be good to go. And you're saving money because you're not spending money you don't have to spend. All right, next up, raw, unfiltered honey. There's been honey that's been found in tombs of the pharaohs that's still nutritious and healthy. You can eat it. The thing about honey is it'll go to sugar, right? So it'll turn into like a clump. But all you have to do is put that container in boiling water, and it'll turn back into honey. If you get the raw unfiltered honey, you're going to get natural antioxidants in there. It's got not just for the flavor, but you're going to get the medicinal value out of it. It's good for sore throats. It's good, but the thing is, the fact that it's sweet, that's mentally, right? If you're talking in a survival situation, that sweetness is going to mentally be morale. That's gonna improve your morale. That sweet flavor, because if you think about it, us as humans, we've got sweet, sour, bitter, salty. Those are like savory, but those are like the main flavor palettes, and the one that makes us the happiest usually is sweet. And so that honey is definitely going to help with that, and it won't go bad. All right, next up, and this is something that doesn't last as long unless you get the powdered, but it's peanut butter. And so peanut butter is something you're going to have to rotate through your stock more often because it doesn't last as long, even sealed up properly. But peanut butter is a powerhouse. It's loaded with protein, and again, it's also motherfucker. Had a phone call. All right, so so peanut butter, it's a powerhouse. It's loaded with calories. It's loaded with protein. It's a good source of a good alternate source of protein, and it tastes good. It's one of those things. It's just like it's got that little sweetness to it, and it's something just like the honey. Mentally, I mean, if you think about it, what is the ultimate comfort foods? Peanut butter and jelly. And if you know how to make jelly and you already had the peanut butter, boom, peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Peanut butter and jelly. It's a comfort for children, for adults. I still love peanut butter and jelly. All right, so moving on to number 7. And we're going to go with canned foods here. But more specifically, when I say canned goods, I'm not talking like vegetables or fruits per se, because that's something that's easily forageable. If you can grow strawberries. If you grow a tree, you can grow apples. You can grow pears. But when I'm thinking canned foods like this, I'm more specifically working on meats: tuna, mackerel, sardines, chicken, beef. Because they're cooked, so since they're in a can like that, you don't have to heat them up. I mean, obviously they're going to be better if you do heat them up, but the fact that they're already cooked and they're pressurized like that means that they're They're already cooked. They're ready to go. So, and you're going to get the protein. You're going to get the oils. Like mackerel and sardines are fantastic for you, especially in the survival situation. They're going to have a lot of stuff that you need. Now, if you don't like fish, go with like your canned beef. Go with your, I hate saying this, but Spam. Spam or corned beef hash. Those, in your survival situation, that's going to get you the protein that you need. So I'm not knocking it. I'm just not really a Spam guy. So, all right, moving on to number 8. And this is something you can do yourself, as I do. Dehydrated vegetables. So this is where we're going to bring the vegetables in, right? But you're going, but dehydrated, because you can dehydrate them, put them in a vacuum seal bag, and then just scoop out what you need. And I'm not saying don't get canned vegetables, because with canned vegetables you do have the liquid that's already in there. With the hydrated, you do have to boil them, you do have to rehydrate them. So I'm not saying don't get canned vegetables, but I'm saying is that I would go with the canned meats. Especially if storage is limited, I'd go with the canned meats over the canned vegetables. Now, if you have the storage, then absolutely go with canned vegetables. Also, because you get the liquid in there as well, which is, especially if you have like canned fruits and vegetables, that's, if you are in a bad spot for water per se, like say you're hard up on water, well, you can, it may not be the most flavorful, but you can drink the water that's in those cans. So that's just something to think about when you're doing that. But dehydrated vegetables, because they're gonna last a lot longer than fresh vegetables, but when you rehydrate them, it's almost like you have fresh vegetables. So, all right, number 9, the dehydrated potato flakes, instant mashed potatoes, but not flavored, just plain instant mashed potatoes, no flavoring, no butter, no chives, mashed potatoes. Now, the nice thing about mashed potatoes, especially like in the flakes like this, you can make a soup out of it. You can make mashed potatoes. Is like if you have a soup, you put a couple scoops of that, and you're going to get that additional calories, because potatoes, just like rice, is a complex carbohydrate, and that's what you're going to need with that energy. So, and again, I would take them out of the box or the bag or whatever you get them in. Put them in a vacuum seal bag, seal them up, put them in a glass jar, put an O2 absorber in there, close it up. That way, you keep them dry, and you want to remove the oxygen, you want to remove the moisture, and then they'll last indefinitely. So, and then last number 10, and this is another one that a lot of people mention. That's pasta. You can get elbow macaroni, you can get shells. You can put those in the jars. You can get a lot of them. And again, a lot of these work together. I mean, because let's say you've got beans, you've got sardines, you've got dehydrated vegetables, and you've got pasta. Mix that together. You can make something to eat. It might not be the best tasting, but that's where another list coming up soon is going to come into play. So this right here, this is just like the basic foods that I stock up on. Now, just like with anything else, the foods are fine by themselves, but when you add the seasoning and spices to it, that's where it's like you go from just staying alive to actually like living. And I think that's important. We can't just survive. Surviving just to survive is, no, you want to thrive. You want to be able to say, I'm not just surviving, I'm thriving in this environment. And we can all do that. And the thing is, it's like if we all just take those little steps and start prepping for ourselves, then if you think about it, as you work in a community, right? Because, as I said before, I think that the two most realistic possibilities for a massive SHTF situation, when it hits the fan, it's either going to be an economic collapse, i.e. depression, or an EMP. There's no electricity. So, no electricity, no cell phones and all that. And I think that the first one is the most realistic possibility, is that we do go from a recession into an actual full-blown depression. And if we look back into the 20s and 30s, the way that people survived the depression was not being that lone wolf, but working with other people, forming a community. But in order for us to form a community, each of us has to do our part. And if each of us does our part, and so and all of us are just taking these little steps to prep for ourselves, then when bad times happen, we're all, we're not in panic mode. It's like, okay, yeah, the markets are shut down, but me and all my neighbors, we have plenty of food, we have water, we have medicine, we have the supplies that we need to make it through. It's going to be a much easier time. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy, but it'll be an easier time. And I think that's something that's important to remember, is that there's a lot that we can learn from the 30s and 40s. We can learn from 20s to 30s. We can learn from the Great Depression. And because, again, look at our economy right now. We're at like, what, a 1.9% inflation or something like that. It's just absolutely crazy. And I don't really believe that either, because the price of ramen went up 25%. A pack of ramen is 25% more expensive now than it was several years ago. So before inflation started taking off a few years ago, like 3 years ago, almost 4. Back before the summer of 2020, when inflation really started to go up. Regardless who you want to blame for that, I don't care. The fact is, the inflation is there. So I'm not here to try to push politics on anybody. But regardless who you want to blame, inflation is real and it is high. You can pick your flavor as to who you wish to blame. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I just know it's real. I'm not about pointing the finger at anybody. Okay, it's this person's fault for the inflation. Inflation is bad. Our economy is bad. And we have to do what we can to help ourselves. And by help, if we all help ourselves and just do this little prepping, then we're helping each other too. Because then those people that are less fortunate, because there's always going to be people that don't prep, they're going to be the ones that are like raiding the markets and stuff. Let them fight over it. Sit back. We have our food. We just have to know. Oh, and something else. One more afterthought on this. With this stuff, and I know I talked about it in my video from last year, but I put like the instructions. I write it on the vacuum seal bag, so you know how much water, how much this, how much that, to make what you need to make, and that way you can actually do your portioning properly. I even put portion size on there. If the portion size is half a cup, I put on there half a cup, and so then that way, and in that video, I bought a set of measuring cups just for my survival rations. That way, if we have to vacate, it's in one of the buckets already. And so then that way, we can level it off. We got our half a cup, boom, half a cup, half a cup, half a cup. Beans, half a cup, half a cup, half a cup. And that way we can ration out our food so that we get servings and not just eat it up all fast. So I think that's an important thing to do. Make sure you know how to prepare it, how much to prepare, and how many calories. That way it's like, if you know that you have somebody that needs 2,000 calories to function, you can make sure that you're getting 2,000 calories a day, but you can make sure that you're getting 2,000 and not 3,000 or 4,000. That way your food will last longer, and that gives you more time to forage, hunt, fish, grow your food. Everything will last that much longer. And you'll be healthier for it too, if you eat the right amount. Right, that's it. Again, if it's your first time on the channel, please consider subscribing. This is number 21 through 30 of 100 items that I stock up on, and I think you should too. But again, the thing of that is, I know that not all of this is going to fit you. If you, let's say, if you have somebody with like gluten problems, or you might not be able to eat rice because you just can't eat rice. You have that gluten. You might not be able to eat peanut butter because you have peanut allergies. You might be allergic to honey. So you might need to find alternatives to this list. They're out there. But this list here, this is what I do. And, I'm just trying to share my journey with you as to far as prepping and getting ready for any eventuality. All right, until next time, keep prepping.